Hi, thanks for tuning in. Today I want to share how I use twillies on my handbags. I am not somebody who typically likes to use a lot of twillies on my bags. These are actually the only two bags that have twillies on them. But my boyfriend did recently get me another twilly for Valentine's Day, and I thought it would be helpful to share how I particularly use them. When I carry my Picotin out, I always get questions on how I tied the twilly this way, so I just thought it would be helpful to share it with all of you guys as well. So like I just mentioned, I'm not somebody who typically likes to use twillies on my bags, but when I purchased the Picotin a couple of years ago, in the boutique itself, they had the twilly tied onto this bag like this. It was the same bag, it was the same size, they just used a different twilly from me, and I just thought that was so cute. That just added an extra element, and because my Picotin was pink, it already is a pretty like girly color. I thought the bow just added more whimsy to it. So adding this twilly in my mind made it more of like a substantial bag that is like an accessory rather than it being like a big sack that you just use to house all of your items. So anyway, that's why I decided to add a twilly to this bag, and this is the way that I primarily carry my Picotin. And like I said, I always get so many questions in New York City. People will stop and ask how I've tied the twilly this way. And then the other bag that has a twilly is my Birkin. And because it is a lighter color Birkin, when I was purchasing it, I wanted to be mindful of potential like oil or color transfer that could happen on the handles, and that's just from daily handling. So I thought it would be helpful to have a twilly on the handles to protect them a little bit. And also, because it is such a bright colored bag, I thought the twillies could help tone it down a little. It could bring in some more neutral tones that make the bag more wearable for my closet. Putting the twillies around the Birkin handles is not necessarily groundbreaking, but I will take one off to share how I like to do it. I think there are some ways to make it easier for you to ensure you're pretty even across the board. And then I will share how I tie this twilly style as well. I will start with the Birkin. Let me just untie one of these and then we can go ahead and get started. So there is the bag with no twilly on it, and then to the best that I can, I will try to film up in more of like a close-up view so that you can see in a little bit more detail. But otherwise, I will be also describing everything verbally as clearly as I can. So before I get started wrapping, I take a look at the twilly itself. There's a side that has a tag on it. Right here is the tag on this one. And then there's a side that has no tag on it. So I consider the no tag side to be the good side. That's like the outside facing side. And then the side that has the tag is like the inside of your clothes, right? That's the side that you want to conceal. So you start by finding the midpoint of your twilly. There is one side that typically has the tag and one side that does not. So with the tag facing down, I place the tag at the top of the handle, and I mark that to be pretty much the midpoint. And then I will take the other half and I will start wrapping it around the handle. You don't want to go too close because then you'll run out of real estate to continue your wrap and to do your knot at the end. So I like to wrap till I get about an inch of handle left, and there's a good 5 inches of twilly left. And this is where I make the loop for the knot. So I will take the twilly around. You see I created the loop here. I take the end of the twilly and I put it into the loop, and I pull it out of the other side. And as I pull, I tighten, I pull and I tighten, and then I have one side knotted and done. And then I go back to the top and I like to wrap the other side. And again, you don't want to wrap too tight because then you won't have space for your knot either. So again, I have about 1 inch left and about 5 inches of twilly left. I make the loop and I take the end, I pull it through the loop. Where's the end? Here it is. So you see the end come through and then I just pull down. Now you'll see this time around when I wrapped the twilly, this side came out a little bit shorter than this side. And so what that means is I might need to adjust the very top part so that there's a little bit more fabric that's going down this side. But why I like to find where the tag is and mark that as the middle is I feel like it helps me it helps to ensure that you're more or less going to have the same amount of fabric go on each side. I know a lot of people like to start at one end and go around, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just think this way, you know, if you just need to adjust one side, you don't have to unravel the whole thing and start over. But this also, you know, if you do it a few times, you get more used to it and you figure out what the right placing will be. So you can, you know, unravel and quickly do it again. But that in a nutshell is how I wrap the twillies around my Birkin handles. So now I will move on to how I added this like dangling bow to the Picotin. The key for this item, for this style, is that it needs some kind of ring or some place to loop around. And for the Picotin, it has these kinds of square rings, and that's just to facilitate how it's opened and closed and also how it's locked. So that is the loop that I used to put this twilly on, and it's for reference, it's the same side that would have the lock piece coming down as well. So they kind of go together in the front. I think it would look better here rather than a place like this handle because the handle is so wide on this style of bag. But I've had people who've stopped and asked me and they said they wanted to like do it on their own Birkin or Kelly. So, you know, if it were to go on the Birkin, I think around the handle up here would be a good spot, or even the closure in the front. It's kind of a small hole to have to put the whole twilly through, but I don't think it would be impossible to do it. And so I think that would be a good place to try out as well. I thought it would be helpful to show more as a close-up what this style looks like. So it's like a twist and like a twirl, like it's like a twisted braid that goes down and ends with a ribbon. I am honestly petrified to take this particular one off in case I can't put it on the exact same way, and it's been like this since I got it. So I'm actually going to turn the bag around and use the twilly that my boyfriend recently got me for Valentine's Day and show you how to do it on this ring back here. So for this style, I think it would be helpful if you had a bag that had this kind of a ring, only because otherwise I don't know what else it could anchor on. The strap on this bag is a little bit thicker that I don't think the first part of this design would be very cute if you started it here. But on a bag like a Birkin, because the straps are much more rounded and they don't take up as much width like this one, I think it could work there as well. So for this style, again, I would look for the middle of the twilly, and for me, I find it by looking for the tag that's on the twilly, and I flip that over and I thread the twilly through the loop. And I find that midpoint, which is around here, and that's when I stop threading. I have it so that about half of the twillies on each side. And This twilly, I think, would be a good one to actually share how this is done because each side is pretty different. One side is hot pink with hearts on it and the other side has most of the animal print. So I'm hoping that makes it easier for you to see how to do this particular style. And it might take a couple of goes. Don't get too discouraged if it does. I didn't do it right the first time, so I had to do it a few times before. But once you get the gist of it, I think it just turns into a little bit of tweaking to make both sides even and make them pretty like you want it to be. So you'll loop your twilly through. And then I like to start by crossing the ends over. I think it just gives it a much easier starting point. And then I start twirling the twilly. And I twirl them inwards right now to get started, and I like to twirl them for a few inches. You don't have to twirl them all the way down. And then at this point, I just trade places with each strand. So this is how I'm getting the braid started. Now I got to a point where I'm losing some of the twirl, so I will continue to twirl in the direction that it came to me in. So one side it's twirling outwards. This animal print side I have to twirl outwards to maintain the same twirl, and then the hot pink side I am now twirling outwards as well. And then I will just cross them over again, and I will continue to twirl. Oops, there we go. Twirl, trade, twirl, trade. And I'm doing this kind of quickly and on camera, so if you feel like it looks really ugly, you're not exactly wrong. And so I'm just continuing down to twirl and trade spots and twirl and trade spots. But you start seeing the definition of the braid. For I don't know what else to call it, so I'm going to call it a braid. And at about this point, I will stop the twirling. I have about maybe 5 inches, 4.5 inches of twilly left on both sides. So I'm going to make a knot so that I can start a bow. Right, so here we go. There's the knot, and you'll see the first time I did it incorrectly. I started twirling outwards, and when you make this knot, you'll actually see that this whole twist starts to unravel. It just like, it won't stay in place. That's how you know that you picked the wrong direction to start your twirl. So I would undo it and then make sure in the very beginning that I start by twirling inwards. And then this is where I will just make the bow. I might not have enough fabric to make a full bow, in which case I will then unravel. Yep. So I can only make like a one-sided bow, which isn't necessarily bad either, if you didn't want it to be too girly. But otherwise, that means I can undo the knot and then try to take out, get some more fabric for myself. All right, so maybe I undo one more here, and I'll do the knot instead. Let's close up the knot. There we go. So now I'll say I have about 6 inches of fabric to make the knot, or make the bow. And then I can start making my bow. And then shimmy it and adjust it in different ways so that it comes out cute. And there you go. Wait, let me just pull this out. There you go. So there you go. And you can see that you've had the twist come down and it ends in the bow at the bottom. And this is where, like, I wouldn't necessarily be super satisfied with what this looks like, so I would probably undo it and do it again. But you can keep practicing, seeing how far down you want to go, how big of a bow you want it to be, and then you can adjust. Now, As you start getting into the groove, you'll see like at the very top, it's not as well defined and it gets more well defined towards the bottom. That's, I think, just also because you are getting used to that motion. So the more you do it, the more, the prettier it will come out to be, I promise. And then at the very beginning, if you can focus on making tighter twists up here, then I think it overall will come out to be really pretty as well. So I hope that was helpful. I hope the close-up looks better. And let me know if you have any questions. All right, so I hope you found these wrapping tutorials helpful. There are so many ways that you can put twillies on your bags. These are not the only ways to do them. And there are plenty of other videos on YouTube that share the different types of ways and the steps to achieve them. For me personally, these are really the only ways that I like to wear them because I am not the biggest twilly person. I don't envision myself changing out my twillies that frequently. This bow has been on this bag since I bought it and I have no intentions of really ever taking it off. So these are the styles that I like to use. I think they're very cute and very practical and simple. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below or head on over to Instagram and I'd be happy to help however I can. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate all of your feedback and support. If you like this kind of content and you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I post new videos every Sunday. So until next time, bye!